Hello, Chatzu here, and I'm going to be taking a look at all of the video game movies that were released in theaters, and basically comparing the pros and cons of each one of them, and maybe somewhere along the way we'll find out what it actually takes to make a great one. Okay, so naturally the first one we're going to be starting off with is going to be the Super Mario Brothers movie, the first movie-based game. Now, I watched the movie a couple of days ago, and just as a refresher for this movie, I've seen the movie a couple of times, and I kind of skimmed through it, writing down the actual pros and cons before recording this. Okay, so I'm just going to go through each of the pros and cons that I wrote down and explain basically why I put them there. The first thing I have in the pros category is the premise. Now, while it is completely inaccurate to the game, I think the premise of the whole, alternate dimension where people evolved from dinosaurs is kind of an interesting concept. And the plan to merge the worlds and all that. It's granted it's not Mario, but as just a general film plot goes, could have been worse. It could have been just something completely unimaginative. It's certainly imaginative. I can't give it that. Um, The second pro I put down is the production value. Not really just the production value, but the cinematography, the sets, the way the film looks in general. For the most part, I will get into in the con section when I'm talking about by that. For the most part, the film looks great. Um, just general things that stand out, like the chase in the police car and just the way the action is shot, really well done in that regard. The music, I really like the theme in this movie. I don't know what it is about it, but it's one of those things that gets stuck in your head. Also, the actual I don't know if the music was licensed or if the music was actually made for the film, but the actual I'll just call it license. The licensed music that plays throughout the film, the end credits and all that. It's that kind of '90s cheese that I really enjoy. Whether you find it good or bad, it's completely subjective, but I find it entertaining at the very least. Okay, what in the world is this fourth thing that I wrote down? I'm just gonna skip it. Um, I wrote down plumbers. The fact that they're actually plumbers, honestly, I just find it odd. Of all the things that they actually kept from the games, that actually made a was actually significant part of the film. So you know, at least they got that right. That's all I'm saying with that. Um, Also, the last thing I put in the pros category is the Goombas. Yeah, I know that the whole opposite from the game. Tiny heads, big bodies in the film. They crack me up. They crack me the hell up every time I see them. I don't know what it is. I just they make me laugh. Okay, I am going to try my best to figure out what this other thing that I wrote down is. Um, oh, that says performances. Okay, sorry about that, a little delay. Um, yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed the performances. Now, I'm not going to pretend that they were all fantastic. Um, like for example, the chick that plays Daisy, I don't think it was the greatest performance in the world. However, I there was some nice chemistry between her and John Leguizamo. But of course, the two performances naturally that really stand out are Bob Hoskins as Mario and Dennis Hopper as King Koopa. Um, there are some moments here and there between both of them that aren't uh, so great, but for the most part, I I thought that they did a really good job, or at least right, they looked like they were having fun, even though I know behind the scenes, at the very least, Bob Hoskins certainly wasn't having very much fun. Um, okay, so that's the pros out of the way. Now we get to the stuff that um, people really want to hear me talk about, the cons. Um, I also put the premise in here. It's, of course, in the pros and cons category, because while the pro is that, hey, at least it's an interesting concept, the con would have to be that it is absolutely nothing like Super Mario Brothers, which, if you're going to adapt a game into a movie, that should really be the first thing you're looking for. Um, oh, here we go. The intro, the little um animated thing with the dinosaurs at the beginning of the movie. This is what I was talking about when I said production value for the most part. Yeah, this is that exception. That animated intro, I don't know what they were thinking, but it's horribly animated. The whole like the voiceover thing or the voice of the dinosaurs, it comes across as really stupid and weird and awkward and out of place and just yeah. Um, the third thing I have on the cons would be there is some really clunky exposition in this film. And when I said the performances, for the most part, were good from Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper. There's a particular moment from Dennis Hopper when he's basically explaining his evil plan, and it is some of the most ham-fisted exposition I have ever seen in a movie. I just in a performance that's overall like really fun, really enjoyable. It looked like he was having a great time with it. That was just it stuck out like a sore thumb. It just oof. Another con I wrote down is world logic. Now, while there is some nice little world consistency, especially with the idea of the fungus and the way they made that everywhere, although that's more I would attribute to the production value part of it. Um, there are some things that just really I don't know. They just don't make sense to me. First of all, while I think there is chemistry between Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, I never got the sense that they were brothers. Uh, I don't know. It felt more like they were just like really good friends that had known each other for a long time. But the family part of it, not so much. I just wasn't feeling that. Ooh, excuse me. But the really big thing is the world itself. The idea of, as Dennis Hopper puts it, a few streets and an endless desert. That's the parallel dinosaur, universe. If this alternate universe has supposedly been around for as long as ours has, which is kind of the implication. At least that's what I gathered from it. How would they have survived? I mean, I can't imagine there would be that many resources, because the desert would have to be, completely uninhabitable. So where did they get the resources for the city? How does the city continue to run? Wouldn't the city have already collapsed after all that time? I mean, that does not make any sense. Plus, the evil plan. Okay, so King Koopa wants to merge the world, so he merges them, or he wants to merge them, and what is his plan from there exactly to take over the world? Yeah, it goes back to the whole resources thing. Where would he get the resources or the manpower or the anything to take over the world? What are they going to use? The de-evolve guns? I mean, that's only going to get them so far against, modern militaries. They'd get wiped out. And just, there's also the whole, everybody, like, not freaking out, but, like, cheering and stuff whenever, the worlds start merging. That felt very off. Um, let's skip to the last thing I wrote down here because I want to save the second to last thing I wrote down for last. The tone. Now, this film ranges from a movie that wants to be adult to a movie that wants to be very, kid-friendly constantly. There's silly elements, there's serious elements, and they don't always work together very well. It's very awkward. And yes, I'm well aware that the whole reason behind that is because the studio wanted a kid-friendly film, and the directors, the original directors, before they essentially got fired from the film, wanted a very adult film. And you can definitely tell in the final product that there was heads butting back and forth. And last and definitely the biggest con of all when it comes to this film is the name. Super Mario Brothers. I genuinely feel that if this film had a different title and had no references in it to Mario, like, take out, the bomb, all kinds of stuff like that, the bullet bills, Mario, Luigi, Daisy, Koopa, take away all references, call them different things, this, I genuinely feel, could have been a cult classic. Definitely not a masterpiece. It's not a great film, but cult classic, definitely. It would have been one of those weird films from the 90s that's not bad. I'd say bordering on good. But I genuinely feel that people would like this movie a whole hell of a lot more if it had no connection to Mario Brothers. That is by far its biggest flaw. And sadly, the reception of this kind of doomed video game movies from there on out. I genuinely feel that we still have yet to see a truly great film based on a game. There have been some that have come close to varying degrees, but we'll get to those when we get to those. Anyway, those are my pros and cons for Super Mario Brothers, and I will see you next time. This is Chatzu, signing out.
...2007... Los Angeles. The city has changed. Cops rule the day. Punks rule the night. And one man wants to rule them all. There's only one thing he needs to succeed.
This is only half of it. Find me the other half now.
And look who's got it.
It magnifies the power inside you. This half gives power over the body.
All right, so where's the on button?
Now, two brothers will stop at nothing to protect their half.
Look out!
And a madman will stop at nothing to possess it.
You're gonna love this.
Let's have some fun.
Who wants gum?
If they succeed, they're heroes. But if he does, they're history.
Watch your step. Time to skin you guys.
T2's Robert Patrick, Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, and Alyssa Milano, Double Dragon.
You said it. We don't really have to wear these, do we?
Hello, Chatzu here, and welcome back to Pros and Cons, where I'm going to be going through all of the movies based off video games released in theaters and comparing the pros and cons of each one, and maybe somewhere along the way we'll find out what it takes to make a great one. Alright, so now we are on to Double Dragon. I had never actually seen this movie before I decided to do this project. The only reason I even knew that this movie existed was because of the Nostalgia Critic review. And yeah, needless to say, I was not looking forward to this. And ooh boy, in that regard, did it not disappoint. Um, but before we get to that, let's start with the pros. And I really had to scrape these together with what this movie gave me to work with. Okay, Robert Patrick. He plays the villain, and you know what? He looks like he's the only one that's really having any fun in this movie. He was charismatic. He was a fun villain. Undermined several times by the script, but that's for the cons. But yeah, overall, he at certain points made this movie watchable and a little easier to get through. Um, Next, there was a cameo by Michael Berryman of The Hills Have Eyes, and the original, not the remake. Um, I haven't seen either one, but I'm aware of who he is, and it was a fun little scene. He's basically like I guess he's supposed to be is he the leader of all the gangs or just a certain gang? I think like they're called like the Maniacs or something. I don't know. It was hard to keep up with what was uh, with the ins and outs of this universe. Um, Next thing I have written down here is flammable water. There's a quick little scene where there's a bucket of water being taken out of the lake in Los Angeles, or a lake. Anyway, they pull water from a bucket and they pour it on some fire, and it stokes the fire, which, ha ha ha, the water's polluted and everything. But given how unsubtle this movie is, or rather how uncreative it is, I don't know. That moment just stood out to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that was actually pretty good. Although they undermine it very quickly after that. But once again, when we get to the cons, um, next I put pyrotechnics. There's some actually really fun pyrotechnic work in this film. Just they really they really knew how to make things blow up, I guess. That's what I'm going with there. In particular, when the theater blows up, that that shot actually looked really cool where they were flying over the car. It's one of the very few cool looking shots in this movie. And also the explosion during the lake chase, which otherwise was poorly shot. And then all of a sudden, bam, there's that. And it's like, oh, okay. That, yeah, I could only make up for it so much. But, honestly, this film, I'll take what I can get. Um, and last, I have the Billy and Jimmy fight at the end. While by no means a great scene for what this film has to offer, that was with our main characters by far the most entertaining scene. And hearing Robert Patrick speak over, I wow, for the life of me, I can't remember which one's Billy, which one's Jimmy. Um, the Asian one. I'll just when he's talking over him, and I like the way that matched up. That was actually really fun. That is all I have for the pros. The cons, I practically could have just written everything else, but I have a very extensive list here. Um, you know what? I'm just gonna go through them in order, not try to structure this. First thing I put here is lighting. This film has just some of the most incredibly bland and flat lighting I have ever seen, especially in a movie like this, something that's supposed to be like it wants so badly to be visually creative, and yet it's incredibly visually bland. And the lighting has a lot to do with that. There's hardly any of what you could consider cinematic lighting. There's nothing creative done. It's just light it to where everything can be seen, and let's put very minimal effort into this. I mean, there's one or two like backlit moments, like Bobo. Is that how you say it? Anyway, when you bust through the door, it's like backlighting. That's about as creative as it gets in this film. Um, and speaking of visuals, the next thing I have here is cinematography. Holy crap! This film, like I said, it wants to be visually interesting, but the cinematography does not. It doesn't help. It's very blandly shot. Honestly, at some point I would say very, very poorly shot. Just give me a camera. I guarantee you I can get better angles than this. This was just I don't know if they didn't have time to do any kind of creative setups or what happened. I honestly didn't do any research on the behind the scenes of this film, although part of me kind of wants to now just to find out what the hell went wrong here. Especially considering, let me bring up IMDb because who was one of the writers on the Paul Dini was one of the writers on this of Batman the Animated Series fame. So yeah, what the hell happened there? And then also the director. Let me check IMDb real quick here. Oh yeah, the director of the Genesis Land of Confusion music video. So yeah, seriously, it's not like there wasn't some talent here. What happened? Um. Oh, next the music in all the ways that the Super Mario Brothers movie was fun, cheesy '90s in its music. This is the opposite. This is the cringe-worthy '90s. This is the oh my god, this is dated in the most horrible way kind of '90s. Um, yeah, the music feels very stock, like zero effort, very generic. Even the song at the end, it's like it wants to be a fun poppy '90s song, but honestly, it's not exactly gonna get stuck in your head. I'll just put it that way. And oof, here we go. The next thing I put on here, film stock. Now, when it comes to how this movie looks, some people might not exactly be able to put their finger on what in the world is going on with the visuals of this movie. Just that it looks old. But to me, it looks like they had very either like used or very old and worn out film stock. It looks like the film stock came from like the '70s or something. It just I don't know whose decision that was. I don't know if like they got their hands on film stock for extremely cheap, had to budget constraints. Maybe they got a reduced budget because of the reaction to Super Mario Brothers. I don't know what exactly went wrong here, but yeah. And you know what? If they were more creative, they could have used that to their advantage and given the film a unique look. Like it's supposed to look dirty. It's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic movie, and you've got really bad, worn-out, stock film stock. How do you not use that to your advantage? People expect a movie like that to look, older and grainy and um, just. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Acting. Oh boy. I honestly don't know what some of these actors could have done with this material, but yeah, it feels very soap opera-y. Like it's like Star Wars prequels eat your heart out with this dialogue. Oh man, it's oof. The I honestly, for the life of me, can't remember any specific lines without going into something I'm gonna come to later. But yeah, the acting, with the exception of Robert Patrick being fun and Michael Berryman being Michael Berryman, um, the acting all around ranges from bland to outright cringeworthy. Um, oh, here we go. Sound mixing. I separated this from music because this is something very specific. This film has some of the worst sound mixing I've seen in what was clearly a Hollywood film. There are times when the dialogue is hard to hear. There are times when it sounds like this crap was recorded, like, I don't know what, underwater or something, practically. Like, what is with the sound quality? Like, what equipment were you using? Could you not have spent a little more money on this? How tight was that budget? In fact, let me pull up. I know it's not always accurate because IMDb, but what was the budget for this film? Uh, oh, that might have something to do with it. Budget, rounding up $8 million. So yeah, this was a fairly low budget movie. It looks like. Um, so I guess that might have something to do with it, but still, just ooh. Anyway, horrible sound mixing. Here we go. Tone. This movie, at most points, feels like it was made for really little kids. Like that kind of, it's just a kid film, low effort, we don't give a damn kind of tone. Um, and then you juxtapose that with random gratuitous ass shots of Alyssa Milano, which is something I might have put in the pros category, but quite frankly, the real Slim Shady doesn't exactly make me stand up. Yeah, this, especially considering it's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic movie, for kids, and yeah, that works out about as well as you would imagine that it would. Eh, very inconsistent tone, just ranging from sometimes it's for teenagers, sometimes it's for little kids. At no point is it ever for anyone over the age of like 14. But yeah, just but in the worst possible way. Because I mean, there's a lot of great kids films out there. This sure as hell isn't one of them. Um, oh, effects. The special effects in this film I gave their own category. In particular, anything involving Robert Patrick's character, who I, for the life of me, can't remember his name right off the. Okay, IMDb, come to my aid again. Shuko. Yeah, anything involving Shuko using the medallion and doing those powers, just it just looks bad. The whole like making him look flat, which is supposed to be like him projecting like a shadow or something like that. Oof. Yeah, I'll just say when it comes to special effects involving shadows, I think the Shadow movie did it a whole hell of a lot better. And if I recall, I think that came out around the same time as this movie. Next, I have the dialogue, which I gave its own separate category for a variety of reasons. Mostly that it consists of what's the word I'm looking for? Not exactly puns, but just the type of groaner lines. Like, for example, one of the villain, kind of dominatrixy evil chick, is an actress that was on General Hospital, and Alyssa Milano ties her up at one point, and of course, what's the line? Lucky you. Generally, I put people in the hospital. Aha, aha, ha, 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 ha. That was not That wasn't funny. That was lazy. Just as lazy as when the roles are reversed, and the evil chick says to Alyssa Milano, "Who's the boss now?" It's like, oh, because she was on Who's the Boss. Oh my god! And they're just, lines like that are just scattered throughout the movie. They knock a Bobo into a net, and of course, you can already imagine what the line is. Nothing but net. That's yeah. If you want to watch this movie, if you haven't before, that's what you're in for constantly. It never lets up with that crap. You know, and you either have that or you have the scene of Billy and Jimmy after the theater gets blown up and what's her face dies. Um, and they're having this discussion, and it's filled with a bunch of cliches and like soap opera style dialogue and delivery, and just can you tell I really, really did not like this movie. Um, and then I put story as the last one on here, although I honestly could have gone on, but I'm writing this on a marker board and I ran out of room. The story. Okay, so it's a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, although it never really specifies whether the rest of the world is like this. I can't imagine it is because there's this whole concept of them wanting to get out of Los Angeles. So I'm like, what did the government just like give up on this city after the quake, which they don't really go into? Ooh, hello hiccups. Which they don't really go into any detail on. Not much anyway. Um, I just remembered something that I'm going to say that I don't even have listed on here, but I'll get to it. How am I will put it in this category? There's these weird like news broadcasts, which like clearly they're going for like the RoboCop tone of these broadcasts, or news and commercials and stuff like that. But sadly, it comes across like RoboCop 3 levels, or if not even worse than that. Um, yeah, like the whole Vanna White and forget who the guy was, and Andy Dick as the weatherman, and they got this weird dialogue where there's supposed to be like a mocking of news personalities, but it just comes across as um, just weird, weird writing. Um, but anyway, that actually a reason why I decided to put that into this category right now is it affects the story in a way where it's hard to tell what they're going for with this the apocalyptic nature of this, because in some aspects it looks like the whole place has gone to shit. In other aspects, it looks like, oh, there's still somewhat of a governmental structure. And I mean, I guess they were going for like Mad Max 1, but they didn't really pull it off nearly as well. Where that was kind of vague on how the structures work in order to focus more on the characters. This one just does it because it feels like they didn't actually think this through. One aspect of the story that really made me scratch my head was so Robert Patrick's character, that's right, Shuko. Shuko's plan is to take over Los Angeles. Okay, so they say that he's the richest man in the world at a certain point. He pretty much, to some kind of degree, controls the cops, although they kind of turn on him at the end. Um, but with all this stuff going on, and the fact that he's got that half of the medallion that allows him to do that shadow crap, which makes him super overpowered. So why can't he already take over the city? I mean, he brings the gangs together. He controls the gangs with just half the amulet and or medallion or whatever it is. I think they call it a medallion, the double dragon medallion. Which, um, seriously, how does he not already control the city at that point? I mean, he could have gone further if he'd been an even halfway competent villain. Like, another thing that everybody seems to point out is after the theater explodes, they are like right there. Why doesn't he just go and get the medallion from them? No, instead, live to fight another day, villains out. And that does not make any sense. From where they were, they could have easily seen them and saw that they survived the explosion. At least that's the way that the shots were set up to make it look like they were within the same vicinity. But yeah, it made no sense why they didn't just go after them right then and there. What else was I talking about? I want to go back to when I said the flammable water, how they screwed that up. The way that they screwed that up has to do with the dialogue and this film just straight up not trusting its audience to be intelligent whatsoever. Because twice after that, they make jokes or they mention in some way that the water is flammable. It's like, okay, we already visually saw it. Now you can use that in the action scene to catch the lake on fire, which they do. But before that, we get a line from either Billy or Jimmy, I can't remember which one, like, wait, isn't this lake flammable? Why was that line in there? Shouldn't they already know that? The audience already knows that. If they have any kind of a functioning brain, they saw that shot. It just and then they make a joke about, oh, and if it gets in your mouth and blah blah, even when it clearly got all in their mouth and they technically should have been dead. But they seem to be making that joke in order to hammer home the whole, oh, the water is dangerous and flammable. And it's like, wow, the one creative way of storytelling, or the one bit of creative storytelling that you had in there, way to just piss that away. Um. Oh, and then of course I don't even know why I didn't put this in the cons. Probably because I know I have played the Double Dragon game before, but I'm not too terribly familiar with it because that would have been a long time ago, like, and most likely on the NES. Um, I vaguely remember playing it. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in the arcade. Yeah, it would have had to have been NES. Anyway. Um, yeah, I'm well aware that the story is very simple in that chick gets punched, bad guys go off with her, plays Billy, Jimmy, or both if you're doing multiplayer, and you go and you fight a bunch of people to get her back. And like, how do you take something that simple, which honestly could have been made into a very fun, interesting film if you had just taken that concept and made it sort of a homage to the types of 80s kind of, in particular, the Warriors. Like, making an homage to the Warriors. Except instead of running away, you're running towards the different gangs. That could have been an interesting little twist. You could have made it for a more grown audience, and you could have made... You were trying to make it fun, and you easily could have made that fun. And the way they did this with the, okay, is it post-apocalyptic? What aspects are, what aspects aren't? Because they seem to be, how are news broadcasts still going out in the way they are? It's the whole inconsistency there. But no, you didn't have to straight up make it post-apocalyptic. You could have just made it, 80s over the top gang culture style film, and you could have had something there. but this whole film just comes across to me as one gigantic missed opportunity. And oh my god, this video is running a lot longer than I expected. I didn't think I'd even have this much to say about it, but that's what happens when you get me rambling like this. I just go on, and I'm gonna go ahead and end this video before it gets too terribly long. So, yeah, Double Dragon, not a good movie. That was painful to sit through, and I watched it once, and then that was a couple days ago, and I skimmed through it, kind of like with Mario Brothers. But this time it was less for expediency to actually get the recording done, and more because I just absolutely did not want to watch this movie in its entirety again, and I don't ever plan to. I hope this is the last that I ever even have to think about it. And on that note, this is Chatzu signing out.
Hello, Chatzu here.
You know, it's been 10 years since I started putting on this mask and using a text-to-speech program to give my thoughts on a whole variety of things. And I gotta say, it's been a wild ride. And don't mistake me, this is not me putting the character down or anything for good or any stupid thing like that, because I know I have a tendency to come and go. I hope to change that, because going forward I want this channel to be a lot better than it has been. I have loved every single minute of every single video I've ever made, even the most cringeworthy, even the most just poorly made in general, such as this one, which this is like my second attempt at actually recording this. Way more than my second attempt at actually making it at all. I planned on doing this when it was still daylight. I'm making this on the night before the 10th anniversary of my video, YouTube Cheaters. So yeah, I planned a completely different setting, so just ignore all this crap behind me. This is the only way I can get this done. But yeah, even though my channel actually started back in 2006 with an anime music video I made, that first actual like masked Chatzu video is what I really consider like the start of my channel, as anybody who ever watched it knows it. And yeah, I certainly not going anywhere, but then again, I've said that a lot, and I always wind up going, and then, but I always come back. I always come back. I'm always going to come back. No matter if nobody's watching me, no matter if I'm purely doing this just to amuse myself, which that's usually the case. I love it. And I miss how much more creative a lot of my older videos were, even as badly made by today's standards as they may be, as badly made as this one is. When you have little to work with, just fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to be more active, not just here, but on social media. I'm going to post the links to my social media pages in the description. I'm going to be uploading this not only to YouTube, but also to BitChute and wherever else I decide to upload videos. I don't know if you noticed, I guess relisted would be the term, all of my old videos, like literally everything. And I'm tired of doing these like soft reboots of my channel. It's just, here it is. Here's everything. I do eventually plan on, I guess, completing the Chatzu archive, but I want to do it in a different sort of way. My plan is basically to take videos from, like, I guess, like different eras of my channel and compile them into one big video, and just have that make it easier to archive my channel wherever I go, rather than 200 plus videos. Has it been over 200 videos? I gotta look at the count again. But anyway, I don't want this to really drag on too much, because I got a lot of stuff that I want to get working on. It may be a little while before I really start putting out content, because I want to do like some heavy editing. But I'm having computer issues. What to know? But I'm going to get those worked out eventually, and then once I do, I'm going to be able to start making more videos more frequently. My next video is most likely going to be the next pros and cons. I'm going to try to finish that series, which I just kept like putting off the next episode until eventually, I guess, has it been 2 or 3 months have gone by, and I'm like, whoopsie, life happened. But yeah, I really don't know what else to say beyond this. Just I'm really excited for the future. Here's to 10 more years, 20 more years. Who knows how long I'm going to be doing this. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And this is Chatzu, signing out.